Have you ever wondered what really happens after death? What if someone died and came back with a direct message from Jesus about the events that are about to happen in 2025? Get ready to hear one of the most intense and transformative stories to ever appear on this channel. Today you will learn the story of Tyler Moore, an ordinary man who died for a few minutes and had a shocking vision. Jesus took him out of his body and revealed that a great spiritual call has already begun, and that 2025 will be the year of the last chance for thousands of souls around the world. If this makes you shiver, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell, because in this video, you will understand why so many people are dreaming, seeing, and hearing the same thing. Time is running out. And comment below which city you are watching from. I want to see how far this message will reach. My name is Tyler Moore. I'm 43 years old. I live in Dallas, Texas. Until the day I died, I was just another ordinary man trying to keep his life on track. Logistics supervisor at a shipping company, father of 2 teenagers who prefer headphones to dialogue, and husband of a woman who, despite all the disappointments, still prayed for me. I was never an atheist. But I also never was, really. I was raised in church, I sang in the choir as a child, but faith became a Sunday ornament. That Bible on the nightstand accumulated dust. My prayers? Vague, fast, and almost always interested. I thought heaven was real, yes, but distant. Far enough away that I don't need to worry about him right now. On the morning of September 14th, 2024, everything changed. It was a muggy Tuesday. I remember leaving home complaining about the traffic, the heat, and a poorly written email. Normal. I sat in the meeting room reviewing last quarter's planning when suddenly the world fell silent. It was as if all the sound in the room had been sucked into an invisible vacuum. My chest tightened with brutal force, as if something was crushing my heart with both hands. I tried to get up, but my legs gave out. The coffee cup fell from the table, spilling dark liquid onto the beige carpet, and my vision went out soon after. But here's the weird thing. I kept conscious. I heard distant screams, "Someone call 911!" But it felt like it was happening miles away. When I looked down, I saw my own body lying on the floor with 2 colleagues around trying to give me cardiac massage. And that's when panic hit me. I was out of my body. I floated, but not like a released balloon. It was as if he was being sucked upwards by a greater force. The room disappeared and the sky above Dallas opened like a curtain of light. Everything around me turned white. Not ordinary white, but a vivid, almost liquid light. In this light, there was no fear. Just a strange feeling that something absolutely colossal was about to happen. And then, I heard his voice. It didn't come from outside. It came from within, and yet it seemed to fill the universe. "Tyler, are you ready?" It wasn't a casual question. It was as if every cell of my being was being scanned by that sentence. A part of me wanted to say yes. Another wanted to run. Because deep down I knew I wasn't ready. And then he appeared, not like the Sunday school pictures. Jesus, glorious, royal, indescribably majestic. And his eyes, they seemed to contain the end and the beginning of everything. But he didn't just come for me. Beside him, an immense scene opened up, and what I saw left me in complete shock. He was preparing to call thousands of souls, and 2025 would be the beginning of the last harvest. I can't tell if I floated for seconds or for an eternity. All I know is that I was pulled into a place that didn't feel like part of this world. The light around me didn't hurt my eyes. On the contrary, it passed through me, revealing parts of me that even I didn't know. My thoughts fell silent. The fear evaporated. And then, I saw him. Jesus. He did not walk, but moved as if he were living light. And yet he had a body, a form, human, but glorious. And when I say glorious, I do not mean gold or crowns. I mean a presence that made me feel naked inside, as if every lie, every disregard for my faith, every moment I chose to ignore God was there, exposed. but not condemned. His eyes pierced me, and in that instant, he spoke. Not with my mouth. The voice came from inside me. Tyler, it's not your time yet, but I brought you here because time is short. The harvest has begun. I don't understand. Harvest? What harvest? That's when the light changed. Like a veil being lifted from my eyes, I saw a field. A huge field, but not of wheat or corn. It was a field of souls. Thousands. No, millions. And above them, I saw points of light appearing, small, like embers. Some went out. Others grew. And then I heard Jesus say, "We are about to call thousands home." My soul shook. 2025 will mark the beginning of the last season, he continued. Not everyone will listen, not everyone will come, but those who do will need to be ready. I looked at everything like a frightened child in front of a fire. There was a rush, urgency, and that word resounded like a drum inside me, urgency. Around the field I saw beings that seemed to be made of fire and wind, angels, but not like postcards. They had fluid, intense shapes. Each one carried with them a kind of light, and this light was shed on certain souls. When touched, these souls glowed, even if they were in dark places, abandoned streets, prisons, hospital beds, crying teenagers, rooms. These people were being called. Jesus then turned to me, and in that moment my entire being went silent. You see, Tyler, this is the harvest, and it has already begun. Not in cathedrals, not on stages, but in hearts. Why am I away? Seeing this? I asked, voiceless, just thinking, but he answered anyway. Because you need to know what's coming and you need to tell it. Many are still asleep. That phrase, many are still asleep, hit me like a bolt of lightning. Then I saw a crack in the sky opening, as if time was folding, and behind it a gigantic shadow approaching. Something was coming, something that no one is ready to face, the separation. And that's when I realized it wasn't just a calling, it was a last alert. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't take my eyes off that crack that opened in the sky. It was as if time itself was being torn apart before me. On one side, the pure and living light that flowed from Jesus and the angels. On the other, one thick darkness like a conscious smoke. And then I heard, "The separation has begun." These words did not come with noise, but with weight. A weight that fell on my soul like a rock. Jesus looked at me with eyes of pain, not anger. It was as if he was feeling each soul that moved away. I saw people, lots of, but now they were divided, literally divided. A field was split in two. On one side, there were those who shone, even with dim, flickering light, sometimes almost extinguished, but still alive. On the other, a crowd surrounded by shadows. Ordinary people, people like me, familiar faces, some even held Bibles in their hands, but there was no light in them. They know my name, but not my heart, Jesus said. I couldn't hold back my tears, because among those in the darkness, I recognized faces. A childhood friend, an old college classmate, an internet preacher. People I never imagined would be on the dark side. They have become accustomed to using my word as a shield, but they have not allowed it to transform them, he continued. I am not calling the perfect, Tyler. I am calling the brokenhearted. The ground beneath my feet shook, as if the universe was preparing for something that could no longer be postponed. The field was full, but the window was closing. I saw clocks, thousands of clocks floating in the air, all ticking fast, very fast. Each one represented a soul. When the pointer completed its turn, the light went out. Despair took hold of me. Why are you showing me this? I screamed inside. What can I do? I am nothing. Jesus approached me. He did not respond, with explanations but with presence. He placed his hand on my shoulder, and in that instant it was as if all of his pain went through me. The pain of rejected love. You will tell, you will warn, and many will listen, not because of you, but because of my spirit. I trembled. But within my spirit something began to awaken, a sense of mission, that everything I saw was not an allegory. It was real, imminent, irreversible. And then the scene changed, quick as thunder. I was taken to another place, but it wasn't physical. It was as if I was inside the heart of God. And there, He showed me something even deeper. I thought I had seen it all, the field of souls, the separation, the angels on mission, the ticking clocks. But what came next was something that no human words can accurately describe. I was taken, or perhaps absorbed, to a place where there was no longer image, nor sound, nor time. It was like being inside a feeling. A place where everything that existed was love and pain at the same time. It was the heart of the Father. I know how that sounds, but that was it. An infinite space, shapeless, without walls, but full of something that crushed me and healed me at the same time. There, every beat, every pulse was a divine tear, a holy pain for every soul that was lost. And I felt it, not just saw it. I felt what God feels when someone dies without having known His love. It was like being torn apart and embraced at the same time, an anguish so deep that it made me want to scream, but at the same time, it made me understand. That was pure love, a love that suffers from not being reciprocated. Jesus was by my side, silent. He didn't need to say anything, because there in that place, everything was spoken without words. He let me feel what He feels every time a soul refuses the truth. I saw flashes, not long visions, but small images cutting through space, like lightning in the dark. I saw a teenager in New York, crying alone in the bathroom with a razor in her hand. I saw a man in Los Angeles driving in silence, planning to jump off the bridge. I saw a mother in Houston praying in whispers while her son screamed that he hated God. I saw a pastor in Atlanta, preaching with his Bible open, but his heart locked, and every one of them was being called, but most didn't understand. God's tears were not made of water. They were made of light, a light that fell like dew on the earth, trying to reach hard, distracted, anesthetized hearts. Jesus then spoke in the deepest voice I have ever heard, not in tone, but in essence. They think there is still time, but the clock is already past noon. My spirit trembled. 2025 won't be the end, Tyler, but it will be the beginning of the last calling, the last station before total separation. In that instant, I knew. These were not sensationalist predictions. It wasn't superstition or manipulation. Was the pain of God trying to wake up those who sleep? I wanted to talk, scream, beg. Sir, send me. Let me warn you. But He just looked at me with such heavy love that I fell to my knees. If there were knees in that place, God's pain broke me, but it set me on fire. Still on my knees, feeling the weight of God's wounded love, I realized that the space around me was beginning to transform again. The feeling was that everything was expanding. A soft light emerged like a mist, and in front of me appeared what looked like a globe floating in the air, but not as a physical map. It was vivo. Each continent, each country, each city pulsed as if it had its own heart. It was the earth as God sees it, not in coordinates, but in souls. And then Jesus stretched out His hand, and out of His fingers came lines of light, which began to play different points on the planet. I held my breath. When the light touched certain places, bright spots began to light up, like bonfires lit in the middle of a dark forest. I saw lights appearing in unlikely places, a cabin in Alaska, a prison in Venezuela, a small room in India, an alley in Chicago. And Jesus said to me, "These are the hearts that have begun to awaken. They have heard the prompting of the Spirit. They still don't understand everything, But they have begun to search, I cried. Because I saw people who had never known a church. I saw teenagers who had grown up mocking the faith. I saw men hardened by decades of sin beginning to break inside. And then, I saw those who were being used to reach those hearts. But they were not famous pastors. They weren't gospel celebrities. They were common people. A waitress who left a note with a Bible verse on a customer's bill. A mechanic who prayed silently before delivering a car. A teacher who responded, "Can I pray for you?" when he heard that a student had lost his father. Jesus looked at me and said, "They think they are of no importance, but they are my hidden instruments. The world does not applaud them, but heaven knows them by name." The earth pulsed, and the more the light spread, the more I saw the darkness stir. Dark entities like living mists moved quickly to try to drown out those small lights. But in many places the light resisted. It grew. It multiplied. "This is the silent battle," he said. "The real war is not visible. It's not in the newspapers, but in the invisible choices that souls make every day." I saw a young man typing on his cell phone, "God, if you are real, show me." And I saw an answer emerge in a simple video of a lady reading John 3:16. The Spirit made me understand. Every sincere act of faith, however small it may seem, is being used as part of the great convocation. Then Jesus turned to me, eyes burning, with fire and compassion. "You too will be one of these hidden messengers, and what you saw here, you will share." While I was still looking at that living globe, something began to change. The brightness of the lights began to oscillate. Some went out. Others were swallowed by swift, silent shadows. That's when I realized, was beginning to see the other side of the battle. Jesus remained by my side, but his gaze became more serious. The atmosphere changed. The intense peace that had enveloped me gave way to a state of alert, as if a silent army were positioned at the borders of the human soul. "Now, see, Tyler, what few realize," he said. And then, I saw the darkness organizing. They were entities, not like monsters, but like living smoke, full of eyes. They didn't walk, they slithered, and they infiltrated places where the light had not yet reached. I saw one of them hovering over a room full of teenagers. One of them was crying in secret with an earphone in, and I heard clearly, "You are a mistake. God doesn't care about you." The entity whispered this directly, into his mind. Jesus said, "They cannot control a soul, but they can lie, and many believe." I saw demons infiltrating churches, yes, but not to destroy with scandals, and yes, to numb hearts. I saw believers with open eyes but cold, indifferent, hearts bored with eternity. The shadows whispered, "You already know everything, and you don't need to worry about that now. Relax." And it worked. Indifference was the most efficient weapon. I was shaking inside, because I had already been one of them. But not everyone fell. I saw a lady alone in her kitchen washing dishes, whispering a prayer. "Jesus, I don't know what is happening in the world, but I trust in you." And at that moment, the light around her exploded, and the shadow fled. I have seen parents praying for children who mocked their faith. I have seen young people reading verses in secret. I have seen a prisoner writing "Jesus saves" on the wall of his cell. In all these cases, the light resisted. And then, Jesus showed me something that gave me goosebumps. The attacks were intensifying because the harvest was near. The demons knew, hell knew. 2025 would be a decisive year, and heaven was already in motion. "That's why I brought you here, Tyler," he said. "Not to impress you with visions, but to give you discernment. You will return, and many will listen. Others will scoff, but some will wake up. And that's enough." He reached out again, and I saw the field of souls. This time, with flames of spiritual warfare dancing over him, and in the midst of these flames, there was an army. But It was not an army of supermen. It was an army of ordinary people, like me, like you. When Jesus reached out his hand, the field before me lit up with a new intensity. But now it wasn't just random points of light appearing. They started to move as if obeying a secret summons. It was like watching a silent army forming, not with weapons or armor, but with broken hearts and eyes that had been opened. They were ordinary people. People that the world would never put in a pulpit. I saw a woman in a cleaning lady's uniform, holding a pamphlet with a passage from João. A teenager who stutters praying for a friend at school. A tired-looking man recording short videos reading verses without followers but with faith. I saw mothers on their knees next to their children's beds. App drivers listening to praise in silence while taking passengers who cried without explanation. Jesus looked at me firmly. These are the ones who responded before the final alarm. And then, I heard something that shut me up inside. One distant sound, but growing, like the beating of drums in a distant valley. The beat accelerated, like a rushing clock. When I concentrated, I realized it was the sound of the last station, approaching. And that's when he said, 2025 will mark the beginning, not of the end, but of the last chance. And the first to rise will be those, the invisible ones. That sentence echoed in my spirit with an indescribable force. Invisible. I saw them more clearly now. Each of them was enveloped in a warm, earthy light, different from the heavenly glory but still radiant inside. They didn't know they were being used. They didn't do it for prominence. They just obeyed. And it was in them that the Holy Spirit poured something new. I watched a woman in tears type a simple message to a friend. You are not alone. Jesus still loves you. And at that very moment, the friend was about to take an entire bottle of pills. The message arrived seconds before she could. Saved. I saw a man reading Isaiah 60 to a group of 3 people in a square. They seemed distracted, but one of them, a silent young man, was touched. The next day, he would give himself to Christ. Harvested. These are the silent sowers, Jesus said. They don't need to know what they are doing because I am the one who acts within them. I couldn't speak. I could only feel it, a mixture of shame and hope. Because there, in front of me, I understood, the great work of 2025 will not be done by the strong or the prepared, but by those who are available. Jesus then looked up at the sky again. I followed his gaze, and what I saw made me tremble from head to toe. Separation had begun to reach homes. Jesus showed me something that tore me in two. Until then, I had seen the field of souls, the living map of the earth, the invisible armies and darkness moving behind the scenes of the world. But now, he pointed to the homes, common houses, living rooms, bedrooms, kitchens, families. The vision deepened. It was as if I was seeing the world through the eyes of the Spirit, not focusing on appearances, but on the intentions of the heart. And what I saw made me shudder. The separation was no longer outside. It was inside the house. Couples holding hands, praying together. On the other side of the same street, a couple who hadn't looked at each other in weeks, with the glow of faith extinguished. Children who began to seek God in secret. Brothers mocking, saying, "This is nonsense." Grandparents kneeling, crying out for their grandchildren. And grandchildren saying that God is a thing of the past. Jesus spoke with a voice of sadness and strength. At the same time, the separation is not geographical, it is spiritual, and it has already begun. The wheat and the tares are growing side by side until the sickle comes down. Those words cut my soul because I saw scenes that still hurt me to remember. I saw a dining table. A mother, eyes full of hope, saying, "Don't you feel like something is changing in the world?" The father shrugs. The teenage daughter rolls her eyes. The youngest son remains silent, but deep down, he listens. And there, in that subtlety, an invisible separation starts to happen. Not by judgment, but for choice. Jesus looked at me and his eyes were full of tears of light. Tyler, the time for neutrality is over. That sentence hit me like thunder. I knew it. He wasn't saying that the time for love was over. Quite the opposite. His love had never been so active, so urgent, so intense. But now there was a clear call. Whoever doesn't choose is already choosing. I saw parents turning off the television to read the Bible with their children. I saw teenagers locking their rooms to watch preaching videos without their friends knowing. I saw wives praying in silence alongside unbelieving husbands. And at the same time, I saw houses with open Bibles but closed hearts. Light does not dwell where the name of Jesus is just a ritual. Jesus said something that still resonates within me. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Not to divide families, but to reveal who is with me and who chooses to follow another path. His pain was visible, but also the hope. Until the last second, the Spirit will still call. It will still ring. It will still awaken. But then, there will be silence. And then, a gigantic clock appeared in the sky. It marked a time that I will never forget. 59. I looked at that clock in the sky and could barely breathe. Katyu. The hands glowed like red-hot metal, and every second a knocking sound resonated within me, not just in my ears, but in my chest, in my spirit, in the depths of my soul. It was as if the universe was holding its breath, waiting for something inevitable. Jesus stood beside me, silent. But I felt the tension in his presence, as if the whole sky was hanging on an invisible thread. And he said, "1 minute left, Tyler." The sentence came like an electric shock. 1 minute? What did this mean? The end of the world? The rapture? A great judgment? But he answered me before I even asked. It's not the end of everything, but it's the end of indifference. The time when people could live as if I were just any options is running out. The clock was ticking. The hands did not run. They marched like soldiers who cannot be stopped. And I saw. Every second that passed made the line between light and darkness became clearer. I saw young people who were almost being swallowed up by the darkness, but in last seconds they heard a verse, saw a message, remembered their grandmother's prayer, and the light returned. I saw elderly people in silence on their deathbeds, and right at the final moment whispered Jesus, and were picked up. I saw others who resisted until their last breath, and their eyes were dimmed without hope. The spiritual pain of this crushed me inside. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "You're seeing the weight of choice. That's what's at stake." That's when I saw the sky be prepared. Angels appeared from all sides, not as in religious art, but as pure entities of living light, with burning eyes and expressions of extreme urgency. Each of them held something that looked like a trumpet, but it was made of sound and glory. They were in formation, ready, aligned. Jesus said, "The final call will not be made in secret. It will be heard by all who have open spiritual ears. And many will respond, but some will mock." And then, before the heavenly clock, Jesus raised his hand. Everything stopped. Time froze. And for a moment I felt, eternity touches the present. I understood that 1 minute was not literal. It was spiritual. It was the last cycle before the great harvest. 25 would not bring sudden destruction, but it would bring last, real chance to crowds who had been postponing the most important decision of their lives. The final minute was not meant to generate fear. It was for wake-up. Jesus looked me in the eyes and said with firm tenderness, "You saw it. Now you understand. Are you ready to hear the last call?" When Jesus asked me if I was ready to hear the last call, my entire spirit shook. It wasn't a question like the others. It went through the soul. It was as if he was asking every part of me, not just the mind, but the heart, the fears, the memories, even the hidden shames. I wanted to say yes right away, but my inner voice wavered, because in that instant I knew hearing the call meant not returning the same. It meant carrying the weight of what I had seen, the urgency, the pain of God, the beauty of waking up, and the tragedy of choosing silence. Jesus came closer, and his gaze passed through me with a love so pure that I cried again, not from sadness, but from being in front of someone who knew me completely. And yet he still wanted me. "Tyler," he said, "the heavens are already in motion. The Father is calling the last ones. You have seen that the army is not made of giants, but of willing little ones. People like you, people who don't have all the answers, but have a heart that has surrendered." At that moment, the sky around us opened like a portal, and I saw millions of souls standing, looking up. Some were trembling, others were crying, but all of them had their eyes turned upward, as if they had been awakened from a deep sleep. "They are listening," Jesus said. "Even if they don't understand, even if they don't know it's the Spirit calling them, they will feel that touch, and they will seek answers." And then something unexpected had happened. That invisible army I had seen before, ordinary people, silent, hidden, began to move towards those who were looking at the sky. Not with big speeches, but with simple gestures, sincere words, short prayers, one touch, one verse, a look full of compassion. It was as if God was connecting the awakened to the available. Jesus then said, almost whispering, "This is how the harvest begins, not with fanfare, but with light-piercing hearts." And when that starts happening en masse, it will be 2025. I saw the hands of the great clock move once more. They were missing seconds, and in that last interval, Jesus reached out and laid upon me something that I cannot accurately describe. It was not a burden. It was a commission. It was as if he was sealing my soul with a calling that could no longer be ignored. A sweet weight, a holy responsibility. "You will come back, Tyler, and you will remember every detail. And when you speak, I will be with you. Whoever listens will hear directly from my Spirit." At that moment, the light around us began to retract. The portal closed slowly. The field disappeared. The angels moved away in formation. Everything was returning to silence. Jesus looked at me one last time with a soft glow in his eyes and said, "The harvest is great, and the workers are already being called. Speak up, Tyler. Someone is about to wake up because of you." And it was then that I felt the first breath of air returning to my lungs, the noise of machines, human voices, the feeling of a heavy body, but the Spirit still burned with the living memory of heaven. If you like this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.